We're here in Monte Carlo for the Rendezvous de Septembre for AM Best TV. I'm Richard Banks, and I'm joined now by Mohamed Kotb, Managing Director of the Treaty Division at UIB. Mohamed, good to see you again. Welcome.
Good to see you, Richard. Always good to be here.
So we're talking at the end of Monte Carlo. It doesn't seem to have been one single theme that's dominated the conversations. What messages are you going to be taking home to your office?
Yeah, I think this Monte Carlo was a bit different in terms of no one single theme dominating the discussions. I think it's very clear that the positive results for reinsurers 2023 and first half of 2024 has set the mood for Monte Carlo. And, you know, speaking to AM Best or looking at the AM Best reports, positive outlook for the reinsurance market. Standard & Poor's maybe a stable outlook, and the only difference seems to be the U.S. casualty. I guess if we were to choose one topic that maybe is highlighted this year, it's the U.S. casualty. However, I think the main theme is how are we going to face the upcoming 1/1 renewals and the expectations of the clients and the reinsurers.
So as a broker, part of your job is managing expectations. What messages are you sharing with your clients?
I think for us in particular, we are quite cautious, and we do feel part of our role is that management of expectations. I think last year and the year before, that really set the tone for the markets, and I think those brokers who prepared their clients for the 2023 renewals came out on top. And I think this year, we're not hearing the term soft market anywhere near as much as we used to hear it for many, many years at Monte Carlo. So I think there is a bit of a cautious approach. I think it has to be clear from a broker's point of view that also when we're here in Monte Carlo, a lot of the discussions are really driven by the peak exposures, especially on the Nat Cat side, US, Japan, Europe, and therefore the message to those clients could be slightly different in other areas. The cycle is no longer one big cycle worldwide. I think it's very important as a broker to identify where in that cycle your market and your client lies, and based on that we give the advice. But I do think the reinsurers, of course, here in Monte Carlo, trying to maintain the momentum and the gains that they achieved in the last couple of renewals, and I think there will be an element of that. Clients, on the other hand, are seeing the positive results from the reinsurance and hoping that that will be reflected on their renewal terms, and I think it will be a balance between the two. But I do feel that reinsurance discipline is going to be kind of maintained going into the renewals, and that's also coming from a lot of pressure from the shareholders who expect certain levels of return.
So you talk about that balance in the relationship. Are customers getting the solutions that they want from reinsurers? And by customers, I mean your customers, the insurers.
In a lot of areas, yes. I think the reinsurance market's still there. It's very strong, very well capitalized, and it's really still serving its main purpose, which is protecting the capital of our clients. And on that front, I think the market has really shown resilience, and the reinsurers have shown their ability to offer solutions. Having said that, we have to also appreciate that the appetite is changing. Some areas, especially on the Nat Cat, there is less appetite from the reinsurers, and they are starting to shift some of that exposure towards the direct market, especially when it comes to low high frequency layers on the Nat Cat. And that's why it has to be very clear that the positive results in the reinsurance market is not because of a lack of losses. We did have over 100 billion losses on the Nat Cat side, but it has been shifted to the insurance market, and therefore there is a lot of pressure now, I think, on the direct market to make sure that they are appropriately managing that risk, and maybe look at the reinsurance, especially I think in the upcoming 1/1 renewal, more for capital protection as opposed to stabilizing the earnings. And I think that's where the discussions will lie, trying to get more on the earnings stabilization side, not just the capital protection.
So when we're here in Monte Carlo, a lot of the conversation seems to be dominated by preoccupations of North America. So we think about hurricanes, we think about US casualty, but of course you alluded earlier to the fact it's a global industry, reinsurance. Are there any particular geographical nuances that you're seeing from other parts of the world?
Yes, I mean, staying on the Nat Cat issue, I think that is one of the main areas that what we used to call low exposure zones really need to tackle, because they're facing more than one challenge. On the one hand, there seems to be less appetite for those zones, and some of the areas where historically we used to think that they are not really exposed to Nat Cat, and therefore not much attention or pricing was paid to them. Now, because of climate change, because of recent events we've seen the last years, This year we've seen the Dubai floods, which came as a surprise to the market there. We had the Moroccan earthquake before. We had also the Turkish earthquake, which is one that's catered for and known as an exposure. But again, there were some surprises with the extent of the loss and the areas that were impacted. And I think the challenge with those areas is A, getting the coverage, B, making sure that the direct market starts pricing those risks and appreciating the changes that are happening on the climate and how that will impact them. And there's a huge insurance gap in many of those markets. And I think that's the biggest challenge for some of the governments there. We are seeing more and more initiatives by governments creating nat cat pools to better manage and transfer the risk. And I think that's a key theme that will continue in those areas.
So genuine opportunity for across-the-board partnerships there.
Yes, especially in nat cat pools, it involves so many stakeholders. The government gets involved, the insurance and reinsurance market gets involved, and then different sides of the country on the protection side has to get involved. And it not just provides protection, it really does help the economy after such events, and it does encourage further investment in that country.
Mohamed, thanks so much indeed for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you, Richard.
For AM Best TV, I'm Richard Banks.